So diversity is really a broad kind of term, and it's hard to define it, but ultimately at the end of the day, it's really about not only learning about people that may be different from us, but learning also to acknowledge that and celebrate those differences. And I think we can do that through awareness and education, but also being very intentional about our practices, about our policies, and what we do in order to make sure that everyone feels like they have a seat at the table. Our company, from the top leadership to our employees, all recognize the importance of diversity. We all recognize the importance of being inclusive, but we all also recognize that because it's such a difficult thing to define, that there's no magical way to make sure that we're doing things right all the time. So knowing that I work for a company that cares about continuing to get better and to improve who we are, it's kind of like who you want to be when you grow up, and ultimately our company wants to be amazing and affirming and inclusive, and we're continuing to work down that path. We have events that we do throughout the year, and we also have employee resource groups. So if there are things you care about, or there's communities you belong to or want to learn more about, there's these groups you can join. I care very deeply about LGBTQ plus communities as a queer woman myself, as well as care about the Latino community. So when I started, within my first week, I'm like, what can I join? And I immediately joined both of those employee resource groups. I currently now chair our LGBTQ employee resource group called Lifetime Pride, and it's just an awesome way to not only educate others but also meet people in the company and think about ways that we can do things to be as inclusive as possible for all employees. She saw a picture of my kids on the outside of my phone on my screensaver, and she said, "Are those your kids?" I'm like, "Yeah." Really proud of my kids, and she said, "Wow, let me see a picture of your husband." I said, "Okay, hold on a second." So I flipped through my phone and I found a photo of my girlfriend, and I showed her the picture, and her immediate response was just priceless. She's like, "Oh my goodness, you're such a beautiful family." And I use that as an example that oftentimes people use the language or ask the questions that they know. I mean, here she went on to talk about her best friend who's gay, and she was so accepting, and every time I walk by now she always asks about my girlfriend and our kids. But it's just a nice kind of story that reminds me that sometimes people just don't know the language to use, but ultimately people mean well, and that if you kind of take that chance and talk to them, they'll be really accepting of who you are and what you stand for. I guess in 2 years I've become known as the woman that, to come to around LGBT issues, or the woman to come to around certain diversity initiatives, and I take pride in that because it's something that I'm passionate about. It's part of who I am and what I live and breathe every day. And so to know that has become infectious and everyone else is kind of thinking about those things too in a different light, it's really exciting when you have people come to you and they want to share their stories around a new experience that they had, or a story around something they learned about a different community, and they're coming to you because they know not only is it something you stand for, but it's also something that you really would care about learning from them and learning about their journey and their growth. So it's really fun, and I'm proud to be that person that people want to come to.